One of the world's largest lakes resides in southern Siberia, known as Lake Baikal. With a maximum depth of about 5,387 feet and a surface area slightly larger than Belgium, this is the world's largest freshwater lake by volume and contains around 22 to 23% of the world's surface freshwater. And curiously, it is home to the world's only singular freshwater seal, the aptly named Baikal seal. Welcome back to Tea of the Sea, and the Baikal seal, more locally referred to as the Nerpa, is one of the smallest earless seals in the world, averaging between 3.5 to 4.5 feet in length and weighing at a maximum about 290 pounds, although the average is about half of that. As the name suggests, Baikal seals are only found in Lake Baikal, although how they got there is still up for debate because of the remoteness of the lake itself. Based on the structure of the skull, the Baikal seal seems to be closely related to the Caspian seal, with both of them, based on morphological differences, being descendants of the Arctic ringed seal. But we don't know which seal necessarily came first, and we don't know, again, exactly how the Baikal seal got to Lake Baikal. It's possible that the seals got to the lake when Lake Baikal was connected to or possibly part of a larger body of water, such as the Paratethys Sea, or the seals simply swam up rivers into the lake when the lake was more connected to other parts of the world. However they got there, we estimate that they have been in Lake Baikal for at least the last 2 million years and have thus established themselves as a part of the lake's ecosystem. Like a lot of seal species, Baikal seals, especially when they're in the water, appear to be mostly solitary. Sometimes they're found miles apart from each other throughout the lake, but there generally seems to be a greater concentration of seals in the northern parts of the lake, likely due to the longer winter leading to longer lasting ice for them to haul out on during the pupping season. Like other seals that live in similar environmental conditions, when the lake is frozen over in the wintertime, Baikal seals maintain several breathing holes within a given area, generally not interfering with nearby seals' food supplies, and when the lake melts in the springtime, they tend to stick close to shore. Now, I'm sure most of you are thinking, how can a species of seal survive in a single body of water like Lake Baikal? Well, fortunately, it's because of what Lake Baikal is that allows them to do it. Lake Baikal, with its huge depth and surface area, is the world's largest freshwater lake by water volume, and the most recent surveys estimate that the seal population is anywhere between 80,000 to 100,000 individuals, which is actually the carrying capacity of that lake. And overall, the population is doing very well. There's very few threats currently that are actually causing problems with the population. There have been previous outbreaks of pollutant-related diseases and other diseases like that, but for the most part, the population is very stable. But there is a growing concern that the continued global climate crisis is going to potentially affect this cold, closed water ecosystem in the near future. And because these seals are only found in a closed freshwater ecosystem, they don't have to worry about being hunted by predators like sharks or killer whales like the rest of the pinniped family. However, they are hunted, at least on occasion, by brown bears. And as pups, while they're usually hidden in a den, they can occasionally fall prey to other smaller predators like foxes, sables, and white-tailed eagles. Mating is pretty standard for Baikal seals when compared to other pinnipeds. They appear to be slightly polygamous, so they will mate with multiple members of the opposite sex, and they do appear to be slightly territorial, although they don't really seem to care a whole lot about defending their territory. Males will mate with up to 3 females if given the opportunity, and after they mate, they will mark the female's den with a strong, musky odor. The den itself is dug into the ice and can be up to 16 feet long and up to 6 feet wide. Females will usually give birth to a single pup after an 11-month pregnancy period, but cases of twins, triplets, and even quadruplets have been occasionally documented. When born, a Baikal pup's fur is silky and white and is designed to keep it warm while it builds up a blubber layer through its mother's milk. Within a couple of days after being born, the pups will then start to dig tunnels throughout the area around the den, leading to and from the den itself, although they never break the surface of the ice, suggesting that this digging behavior is just to keep the pups warm while they develop a blubber layer. Pups are usually weaned off their mother's milk at about 2.5 months of age, and at that point the mothers start to bring them solid food in the form of fish, amphipods, and other sources through the hole in the den itself. The pups are left to fend for themselves for the rest of their lives once spring comes and the ice melts, collapsing the den, and they have no choice but to start swimming around in the water. Because of the isolated environment of Lake Baikal, Baikal seals generally don't have a lot of options when it comes to food, and they seem to prefer a very specific fish called the golomiankal, or the Baikal oilfish. It's believed that this fish makes up about half of the Baikal seal's annual diet, and the species consumes about half of the biomass of these oilfish, consuming about 64,000 tons annually. It seems as though the seals specifically rely on these oilfish in the winter and spring, with about 90% of their diet being this oilfish during that time. But elsewhere throughout the year, they're feeding significantly less on these fish and feeding on other fishes endemic to the lake itself. The teeth of the Baikal seal is also uniquely adapted so that they can both intake and expel water at the same time, meaning that they are capable of filter feeding on smaller prey items such as amphipods. Likely, and this is just my personal opinion, a consequence of their limited food opportunities as well as the overall size and depth of Lake Baikal itself, Baikal seals are very well adapted to spending a long period of time underwater at great depths. While most dives last no more than about 10 minutes and are generally between 0 to 400 feet in depth, Baikal seals are capable of diving for over 70 minutes if necessary and have been known to dive as deep as about 1,300 feet. They are able to do this in part because of the amount of blood that they have. Baikal seals, for their size, have more than 2 liters of extra blood in their system compared to other seals. This means that they can store more oxygen in their entire blood vascular system and are able to stay underwater for longer periods of time than you would normally expect a seal to be able to do so. Baikal seals seem to utilize a couple of different feeding methods throughout not just the year but also the day. During the daytime, the seals are generally going after fish using visual cues as there's more light in the water for them to see the fish. But at night, they seem to switch to feeding on amphipods and crustaceans in shallower waters, using more tactile clues rather than their eyes to find food, which makes sense considering they can't see at night. Finally, Baikal seals use one very unusual feeding method at a very specific time of year. During the fall, right before the lake freezes over, the seals migrate into bays and coves and go after a very specific fish. Kessler's sculpin is a fish in Lake Baikal that generally lives in the muddier, siltier areas of the lake, specifically in bays and coves. Consequently, in its digestive system, there's usually a lot more grit. And it seems as though the seals utilize this grittiness to clean out their intestinal tracts, including parasites, right before winter hits when they are most vulnerable to diseases and things like that due to the harsh environment of winter. Due to the remoteness of Lake Baikal, there isn't a whole lot of studies looking into Baikal seals. However, in 2023, researchers were able to sequence the genome of the seal, which will open up a lot of opportunities into its evolutionary history, as well as lead to more clues about how the seal made it to Lake Baikal in the first place. But as that was just announced last year, we're going to need more time to look at the genome sequence of the seal, learning more about the evolutionary history of this very unique freshwater species. But for now, that is your brief summary of the world's only freshwater seal, the Baikal seal.